was just like this really cool thing, really just awesome people. And actually, I was so sad that I lost track of all of them, including the garbage truck guy there. But it was this downtime. And it was, for me at the time of my life, at 22 years old, it was the only people I knew in the community. And it was all centered around cigars. And the guy Mike that owned the cigar shop was the greatest guy. I remember the first time that I smoked, it wasn't a Cuban. No, the first time I had that flew to Monterey, it was a double Corona. And I think it was like 100 bucks. And I sat there and smoked it to the end, you know, with a pinch hit, put the pick in it. And I'm like, this is like drinking a bottle of Cigar. This is crazy. For a bottle of Sansa. And I was just in love with it from that. And then I read Paul Marion's book. I built my first humidor. I realized that humidification and proper storage of cigars is probably one of the biggest mistakes that's happened in the cigar world. And I just got into it, and that was it. So from then on, you know the whole story. I was, I don't know the words that I think, that I was in love with the cigars.
Just take a step back for a second here, because you're loaded with confidence, loaded with charisma. Where's that come from? Where did you, were you always like that? Were you like that as a little kid? Did it come from family? Did it come from...
Do it!
By the way, this is how it happened when we met at the car. I walks in, it takes out a bottle of tequila, he's pouring shots for the photographer, for me, everybody on the team. It turned into quite the party. Were you always like that? Like this guy? Were you always the life of the party?
Now you have to drink again. There you go.
It's true, way better. That one sucks. Yeah, I was always a handful with my parents. This is a true statement. My mom makes it all the time. She says, when your dad and I got married, we wanted 10 kids. And then we had you and we were done. I did have my sister, but no, I was always a little bit of a hellion. Not in a bad way. I just live life. I want 25 hours out of the day. I want 368 days a year. I mean, I don't want to burn 1 minute. And you know, my wife says, you need to sleep more, you're going to take it easy. I'm like, sleep when I'm dead. I don't know how to get after that. It really, I miss you. We seem so far apart. This is a great chair, that one is horrible.
What about food? What was the food like in your household? And how did that inform you and turn into a career centered in a lot of ways around food?
Speaking of horrible, the food in my house when I was a child. Now, my parents are both really good cooks, but my parents were hippies, not no smoking hippies, by the way. I have to say that. My mom's like, don't say we were hippies and then have everybody think we were following the dead. No, my parents were, my dad was out of the Navy, my mom was a school teacher. It was the 60s, they didn't want to live in, I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and they didn't want to live in Ohio, they moved to California. I was 6 months old, and we did it all. We ate it all. I mean, we were into mackerel lives. If it was steamed fish and broccoli and bulgur, that was what we ate. Nobody ever wanted to combine something there. And I would go to people's houses, and I'm like, you make a whole loaf out of meat? Like, they make a loaf of meat. I want to have that. And that was not what we were eating. We ate a lot of steamed fish. We ate a lot of steamed everything. But my parents were into healthy cooking. And it was great because it taught me a lot about cooking before I understood what I was going to do with cooking. But I was about 8 or 9 years old. My mom was making eggplant parmesan. And all I remember was coming around the corner and smelling it. Like, you know, when you smell frying flour, you know that smell. And I'm like, are we having chicken parmesan? And my mom says, no, we're having eggplant parmesan. I said, well, could we just have like chicken parmesan like normal families? So after I woke up from getting hit with the frying pan, be here all day. So anyhow, she said, you don't like the way we cook, you can cook. I was confident at 8 and 9, whatever it was. So I went to the grocery store in our town, which I went to Waltons, if you remember the Waltons. Anybody? Waltons? Good. More applause than they got. No, I was giving you the shit of myself anyway. The stuff. So, probably getting caught points, like I thought wait a minute earlier. It was, you could go to the store, the grocery store, the Valley Grocery, where you could sign things. So I went to the butcher, John was selling, and I said, hey John, I like to cook today. I want to eat some meat. What kind of meat do you eat? He's like, I think I gave you your best days. I said, what do you serve with this? He said, pasta. He said, you're Italian, you guys eat pasta? I said, yeah, but we always eat green pasta. It was spinach pasta. Hippie store pasta. And so anyhow, long story short, I cooked this dinner, my parents came home from work. We had a little town of 1,400 people. They kept walking in the door, and there I am cooking a steak in a pan. My dad's 6'3", cowboy boots with a handlebar mustache, black hair, Italian. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Mom said I could. And he looks at my mom, who's this beautiful redhead. She goes, I didn't think he would do it. So we sit down for dinner at the table, and I didn't think about that only to cook the pasta separate from the sauce. So I cooked all the pasta in the sauce. I think it was like ragu or something. So I got this clumpy, messy pasta and the steak, and all I knew my world was butter and soy sauce. That's the only thing we had. And so I put the steak in front of him, and man, it's not going good. My dad takes a bite, he sets his fork and knife down. He looks at me. This might be the best day I've ever had. And that was it. I'm like, hell yeah. Because in my family, if you cooked, you didn't have to do the dishes. I'm like, I'm not doing
He's not doing the dishes. So that light a spark right there. You're like, okay, we're off to the races.
If I took it so far, I was so addicted to food. And not a big eater. I'm still not a big eater. You're wondering why I'm this petite 146 pounds. It's because, thank you very much. I was so addicted to food. I love food so much that I would walk from school. My parents we had horrible lunches at school. And my parents didn't make very good lunches either. Because my mom baked the bread, and it was like 4 of the earth bread. It was like this. There was pine cones in it, animal drop. It was terrible. Mom was no bakery. But at their little store in our town, to keep everybody working in their store, they would buy lunch meats and have great bread and all that stuff, so the people who worked there would make their own sandwiches and stay working. So I would leave school at lunch, give up recess, to go out there because I could get a salami sandwich. And that's what made me so. I found the joy of cooking. Anybody have the joy of cooking? Yeah? Yep. One. You can buy that, so but the joy of cooking, and I opened it up, I'm like, wait a second, they give you all the secrets? This is awesome. So I would fake being sick as a kid and stay home and cook, just because I hated school. I wasn't out of school. I mean, I eventually got through it, after, I don't know, my dad thought I was a doctor when I graduated high school. None of this is working. You guys are definitely not checking it out. So, no, that was it, man. I was just addicted to food. I went to France, I was 16. I made myself an exchange student, which was a whole other story. I think you know the story. But food was always the episode.
You saved some money from them. Did you sell pretzels as a young boy too? At one point, you had some pretzels that were revelatory.
I sold a lot of things, Dave. I sold a lot of things. I was kicked out of the Kool-Aid business. I was 7 at a thriving Kool-Aid business. I mean, I was, so the little town, like, anybody ever see the Outright with Dustin Hoffman? Okay, so people watch on great. So, Outright with Dustin Hoffman is filmed in this little town called Ferndale. It's up in Northern California, Puerto Rico. It's the most idyllic little town in the world. It's my still my favorite place to live in. I still have my home that I was raised in. We do a lot of fun there. But, so I had all kinds of businesses, but one was cool. And tourists would come through, and who can't, you know, little kid that sells food. I was good at lemonade. I could squeeze a lemon like it was way out there. But you can just make good Kool-Aid. You know? So my dad caught me with a purple arm. And he said, "Why is your arm purple?" And I said, "Because I'm making Kool-Aid." He said, "You can't stir it with your arm. Where's the stick?" I said, "The dog ate it." He's out of the closing out the lake. So anyway, we were skiing at the Tahoe, and the guy had a pretzel car, so they stopped doing the salt on them, and I'm a salty, sour, spicy guy, not a sweet guy. And I, you know, that's when we would drop our kids off at the ski resort, and give them $20 to get the lift ticket, and then whatever that money had left to buy the lunch. My dad said, "I had $5 for lunch, what did you have?" I said, "5 pretzels." He said, "I used $5. How many pretzels?" I said, "I had 10. I said, "I had 10 pretzels." He said, "We have these things that are amazing." He said, "Well, if you love them so much, why don't you start a pretzels?" Again, I'm in 4th grade. Okay, I'm in 4th grade. My dad was a huge entrepreneur. My biggest hero, I miss him. Great guy. And he said, "Why don't you start your own pretzel business?" I said, "Okay. How do I do that?" He said, "Go ask the pretzel guy for the address before he gets the pretzels." So I go down to Joey that I've been buying pretzels for a week. I said, "Hey, Joey, can I get the address for the pretzels?" He says, "Why?" I said, "We're going to start our own pretzel business." He says, "No, you can't have it." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you can start your own pretzel business and you can put out a business." I said, "I was in 4th grade." Because I don't know anybody but you because so my dad would walk up defeated to the lounge, and my dad's like, "Bullshit. You go down there and you wait for it to go that box of that leftover pretzels away, and then you get that box and you bring it back to me." So I staked the guy out for me. He throws the box away. I dumpster dive my ski outfit into the dumpster in the snow. I get the box, I bring it to the lounge, the whole box. You didn't have to bring the whole goddamn box out. Tears the address out. He said, "Go back." So the next year, every day after school, I would go to my dad's buddy's shop, and I would build this pretzel bar on the back of my 3-wheel bike. And in 5th grade, I opened up, because in 5th grade, what word did you use the most? Awesome. So I opened up the awesome pretzel bar. And I sold pretzels from 5th grade till I was 15, $10,000. I saved all the money. $10,000 in 1982, right? So I said, "Well, no, it's not $10,000 because I saved it, because Lord knows I would have spent it on every BMX bike I could have ever bought." And my dad, I saved the money, and then I wanted to go to France. We had exchange students when I was a kid, and I wanted to go to France, but I didn't speak any languages. But we had exchange students, so I knew about other countries. And the long story short, my dad said, "You can go to the junior college of sophomore high school. If you can go to the junior college, and you can learn to speak French, because you can learn in 1 year, right?" So I went to the junior college. I passed the class with a B or better. My dad said, "Yeah, you can go to France." So I lived in a boarding house, went to France, and when I got to France, my head was blown off. I mean, it's kind of like the first time you smoke a great cigar that's perfectly humidified. When you meet Eric Espinosa, when you have that euphoric moment, and I'm like, "That's it, I'm going to be a chef."
I'm sure.
That's amazing. Pretzels, meat, that's a great story. The drive to make that happen, how do you go from, I know you open a restaurant, you got the cigar patio, things are going great, with the light. And we're going to get Eric up here just a little bit. How do you go from having your own restaurant where you have a cigar patio? How do you get to become Guy Fieri who everybody knows on the Food Network? How do you get on the Food Network? Export the process.
Do you ever answer one of those late night ads? You too can give Food Network a star. What I learned when I first started smoking cigars, every great cigar has a great life. And I try to explain that to people all the time. Don't smoke it so fast it doesn't go out. Be willing to not burn through it in 20 minutes. Let it go out. Take the ash off it. Get a great lighter. A great lighter is the key. I don't know how you can get one with a big lighter. It's not working. It's way too good. A really good lighter makes it work. So it's funny. Did you tell me about the cigar patio at my first restaurant?
You told me, but I don't think you told the group. Let's talk about the cigar patio, because cigar patios weren't common when you opened a cigar patio.
So, was running restaurants in Los Angeles. So, graduated college, smoked cigars down in Long Beach, did restaurants for other people, always had this inspiration that I wanted to do my own restaurants. And I had a real vision about what I wanted to do with restaurants. And so, when I opened my first restaurant called Johnny Garlic, garlic is in all of our food. Every ethnicity of food has garlic. Garlic is in ketchup. All right, we love garlic. Don't get these bad things, especially this one. Don't get it bad. So I opened up Johnny Garlic